Well, today we're going to talk about a few things, and then we're going to play a little game. So hopefully you're all up for that. So we'll see how that goes. First thing that I wanted you all to read this week was this piece out of Chemical and Engineering News, where they were talking with Peter Morris, who's a science historian. Why do you suppose I wanted you all to read this? Do you think I wanted you to read this for the history piece? Or was there some other motive of my having you read this? What do you think?
I mean, it shows what a science historian does, like what they talk about, what they study.
Okay, yeah. How many people in here are interested in history? Okay, yeah, this is another option for people who have more than one interest, right? There are so-called scientific historians, that's what they study. They have a scientific interest, they have a historical interest, and they study the history of science, right? So it is what I would call a non-traditional pathway for scientists, but there are several people around the world. Some of them are in history departments. Some of them are in chemistry departments. I actually know somebody who's in the chemistry department that their entire area of scholarship is to look at historical pieces of chemistry, and they actually teach a chemistry history class, so to speak. So kind of interesting. And some of them actually work at institutes and museums and that kind of thing. So if that's kind of your interest, if you happen to be interdisciplinary in nature, we actually do offer a major called interdisciplinary studies, where people can pick a couple of different areas that they study and kind of piece them together as one major. And things like this are always a good way to get involved in those types of things. And so if you find yourself interested in science and history, or science and whatever else, and you're thinking that you might want to make a change, interdisciplinary studies is a great way to make that happen. Stay in college and finish your degree. What else about this piece caught your attention? Yeah.
Science used to be a lot more dangerous to perform for the scientists.
Absolutely. Science used to be quite a dangerous field. Our laboratories were not what they are today. The laboratories that are in this building actually are very modern compared to some of the things that he was discussing. And ours are starting to get long in the tooth in this building. We really need to start thinking about renovating them. When you all walk into a laboratory today, what do you all see?
Safety equipment,
You see safety equipment. What might be some examples of that?
like one of those overhead showers.
An overhead shower. Yeah. What else? Pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, a vent hood. Yeah, I'm sorry. Fire extinguishers, fire blankets, first aid kits. We see all kinds of stuff today in terms of safety. You know, if you look at that old picture, I don't see anything that resembles anything about safety equipment, right? What else? Not safety equipment, but what else when you walk into a laboratory? What do you typically see? What do you associate with a laboratory? Chemicals and glassware, equipment, right? So equipment that we use. That hasn't changed much in terms of scientists needing equipment. What kinds of equipment we use has changed dramatically over the centuries, right? What else?
Those goggles that make you have a ring around your eyes.
The goggles that make you have a ring around your eyes, that's right. Yeah, so safety, personal safety equipment has become a big thing in laboratories as well. So you all are going to learn a lot more about safety when you take Chemistry 410, Principles of Laboratory Safety. It is a very important thing for you all to take seriously, because the laboratory, by its very nature, because we are dealing with unknowns a lot, can be hazardous, but we can mitigate that risk, and you're going to learn about that in Chemistry 410. What else about the article kind of took you by, maybe kind of surprised you a little bit? Yeah. Lived in the laboratories? Yeah, that's kind of something that we wouldn't even consider today, right? Were they actually physically living in the laboratory space as we think about it today?
No, but like
They were in the same building though, right? Yeah. So it would be like living in this room and your laboratory being on the, or my lab's on the 4th floor. Kind of that way. But we don't think about actually living in the laboratory anymore, right? Yeah. What else? I was kind of surprised by the original fume cupboards, as they called them, right? That to draw the air out, they actually used a lit candle to do that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Certainly hazardous to have an open flame these days in a laboratory, but that's how they did it back in the day. So you can kind of see the evolution of our laboratory spaces. What does it mean to be a laboratory? What is a laboratory? It's very simple.
Just a place where experiments are conducted.
Yeah, it's a place of work. That's what a laboratory is, right? You can go into an electronics laboratory, a chemistry laboratory, a biological sciences laboratory. You can go into a music laboratory. You can go into an audio laboratory. It's a place where you have the equipment and the facilities to do the work that you need to do. So a lot of things can technically be labeled as laboratory spaces. And each one of those laboratory spaces that I mentioned would be quite different. For those of you who've gone into your biology labs, do they look like your chemistry labs? No. The biology work that you do is different from the chemical work that you do, right? And so you need different things. One is not better than the other. It is just going into a facility that is equipped to do the type of work that you're going to do. So I wanted you to kind of read that. I found it kind of interesting to kind of see the history of how our workspaces have evolved. What do you think the laboratory spaces might look like in 10 or 15 years from now? What do you think will look different at USM in terms of laboratory spaces compared to what you're looking at now? If you were to design the future lab, what do you think you would put in it or change?
Probably the height of the tables.
The height of the tables, you think will change?
Well, I'm tall though.
You're tall though?
I'm biased.
Okay.
Them tables are short.
It's got.
The tables are short?
I'm sitting here like this.
Okay. All right. What else?
Maybe more personalized equipment.
More personalized equipment? Okay.
So much sharing of one instrument.
Okay.
Just
What else?
newer equipment in general, because a lot of the stuff in there is rusted.
A lot of stuff is rusted?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? What else?
Or digital microscopes.
More digital microscopes? Okay. Probably not in the chemistry lab, right? But maybe in your biology labs, for sure. Maybe. We do use microscopes from time to time in chemistry, but not too often. What else?
I'd like better scales, because I was doing a chemistry lab the other day, and apparently the scale I was using only goes to 0.5, so it ruined my data.
Oh, okay. What else? What do you think's happening right now that you hear an awful lot about that's going to change the way we do work in general and certainly will impact the lab? Nanotechnology. Certainly we'll be developing probably more of it in the laboratory. And it might. I don't know. AI. Yeah. How might AI change the way we work in the laboratory?
Well, this article was talking about, there's like a little picture, it's like human chemists may be largely replaced in the laboratory with robots within decades.
Yeah, we might not even actually really be working in the laboratory as we do today, right? You might walk into a physical space and think that that's the robot room, and we're behind somewhere else where it's perfectly safe making manipulations. Do we already do that?
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, if you go to Oak Ridge National Labs where they work with highly radioactive stuff, there are humans, but they are actually physically controlling robots to do all of the work behind a radiation shield. It's not much of a leap to think about us going from where we are today with students at a desk doing their work with their own hands to thinking about how they digitally manipulate the experiment to do and get the results that they want. So who knows what the future will hold, but I find it an interesting thing to think about, especially as we think about renovating spaces. We're on schedule to renovate some of our laboratories in the next several years, and we need to be thinking about the future, right? We don't need to just be replacing what we currently have. We need to be thinking about how we're going to be doing that work in the future. I also wanted you to read this article on Air Products sues the federal helium asset sale. Why would I be interested in you all reading this? Why is this important?
Sort of the politics of chemistry that
Yeah.
you have to be aware of.
That's right. We are. Scientists like to think that they're completely objective, but we are run by a political society, right? So I hate politics in some level, but it is a reality. Okay. What else? What's important about the National Helium Reserve? Why was it formed? Anybody know why it was formed in reading the article? Why should we be concerned with helium balloons? Are we concerned with helium balloons?
I didn't read the article, but isn't helium, are we running out of it?
Helium is a limited resource. That is true. What do you know about helium?
Isn't it highly volatile?
Well, it's a gas, if that's what you mean. Yes, it's not flammable, as in volatile, but it is something that it's hard to keep around. How many of you have ever had a helium balloon? Right? Just about everybody. What do you know about that helium balloon?
Makes it
It's
worse.
lighter than air.
Makes it lighter than air. We say that, right? And it kind of floats, right? So it's less dense than air, so it floats. What other observation have you made about your helium balloons when you got them on your birthday?
They make your voice squeaky.
Makes your voice squeaky if you inhale the helium. Yeah. The static of it? Okay, there's static. Yeah, on the balloon. What else?
They fly away easily if you let them go.
Pardon?
They fly away easily if you let them go.
They do, don't they? Yeah, so they're very light. They're lighter than air, as we say. They float away. They go pretty high. In fact, you can get a helium balloon to go so high that it will eventually pop because of the pressure differential. What else?
So like a day or two, they leak, or like they're more deflated.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get a helium balloon and it floats. You put it over in the corner of your room and you come back the next day and it kind of starts to come down, and then it kind of starts to come down a little bit more, and then eventually what? It gets really tiny, right? So what does that mean? It's hard to contain. I think getting kind of to your volatile point, right? It diffuses through things very easily. It's because it's really tiny and small. What else do you know about helium? Is it always a gas? No. What else could it be? A liquid. We can make liquid helium. What do you know about liquid helium? It's not very reactive, actually. It's not reactive at all for the most part. But it is one thing. What is that one thing? It's very cold. It's as close as we can get in terms of a liquid to absolute zero. It's really close to that, right? And it takes on these special properties called superfluidity. We won't get into that, which is kind of cool. You can actually watch liquid helium try to creep out of a container. That's called superfluidity. And it's something I don't completely understand, but it is cool to watch, literally and figuratively, okay? Why is liquid helium important for us? Well, obviously it's cold. It's super cold. Super what? Superconductors, that's right. So what is a superconductor? Yeah, it's essentially a material that has no resistance. But a superconductor will not be a superconductor at any temperature. And right now, for the most part, superconductors have to be really, really cold, like at liquid helium temperatures. Actually, a little bit above that, but liquid helium is about as good as we can get. Why is that important for us? Why should the federal government be so concerned with helium that we, at one point, were willing to have a national reserve of it and called it a strategic material? Anybody in here ever have or know anybody that went and got an MRI?
Oh,
You can't get an MRI without liquid helium. The magnet is a superconducting magnet. To get those types of magnetic fields, you have to have a superconducting magnet. When we have helium shortages, they will stop selling helium balloons to divert all of the helium that we have to the medical field because of MRIs. Why should we care about MRIs? I can take an MRI of you, not me, right, but somebody who's qualified to do such, can get an MRI of you in mere minutes, whereas in the past to try to do something, we had to do something invasive. We had to actually operate, cut. We don't have to do that anymore with MRI, right? In chemistry, it's very important because we have these things called NMRs. You're going to learn about that when you get into organic chemistry. Again, superconducting magnets. Allows us to see molecules, essentially, okay? But you got to be really cold to do that, okay? So why is Air Products interested in suing the federal government? It's kind of counterintuitive when you think about it. A private firm is suing the federal government not to make something private. Why? What do you think that is?
Because it's taking away the profit from the private.
Certainly a profit motive, of
Yeah.
course. The federal government can actually do things that private firms can't. And right now, the Federal Helium Reserve is a strategic asset for the United States. It started around World War II because we filled these things called dirigibles, right, blimps, during the war. You need helium for that. You might have heard of this thing called the Hindenburg that didn't have access to helium, but they had access to hydrogen, but that's a problem because it likes to go boom. Helium does not go boom, right? So we used to use these airships, if you will, to do spying and other things. And where do we get helium? Can I just get it out of the air? I can get oxygen out of the air. I can get nitrogen out of the air. Why can't I get helium out of the air? Back to your point. Why can't I get helium out of the air?
It's not as dense as the air.
That's right. It will actually achieve escape velocity and go out into outer space. So when we are working with our helium balloon and we let it out, eventually, and I don't know how long it takes, but it will not stick around in the air, around the Earth. It will eventually escape and go into interstellar space, which is kind of interesting. But it means it's hard for us to keep, right? And so all of the helium that we have, that we get from basically oil wells where there's natural gas. Helium gets formed in the core of the Earth, or somewhere around in the core. I'm not a geologist, okay? Due to nuclear reactions. It gets generated. It gets released. It builds up in these pockets of gas in the earth. We extract that. And it's very expensive to separate that from natural gas. So the government comes in and pays for that to happen and then reserve it, pump the helium back into the ground to maintain it for a long period of time. It is a strategic product that we have. I can't imagine what life would be like if we really had a true disruption of helium. Surgeries would be delayed, people would die, people would not get the medical care that they need because of what people put in balloons and watch float around. That's kind of interesting, right? So this is an important piece. It's a business thing, and if you're interested in business, this is a read that really should have interested you. All right, I gave you a couple of things on CVs and resumes, okay? There is a couple of videos here. I'm not going to go through them. You can go through them on your own. But here's some stuff from Indeed on how to create an effective science CV. You need to read through that. Career Services came in and talked to you a little bit about resumes. You need to keep all of that information in mind. And then I gave you a video on how to use Word to put together a good CV, okay? And why did I give that to you? So that you can learn how to format stuff pretty easily. It's easy to type something out, but using the tools of Word to make it easy and make it look professional is very, very important. And why is all of this important for you? Because you've got a CV and resume coming up as part of your products that you're going to get. Now I'm going to show you my CV. Your CV, you all will actually develop a resume. You can call it a CV if you want. Yours will not look like mine, but when you're 51 years old, yours might look much better than mine. Okay, so I'm hoping so. So, what do you recognize in my CV or resume that you might not have thought about? What do you notice about it? What you should notice is what's absent. I did not use a lot of flary. I'm not a graphic designer. Some of you might have a flair for graphic design. This is not the place to use that flair if you're putting together a science resume or CV. Okay? If you're a graphic designer, you use that flair because you're applying for graphic design things. In the sciences, we like this to be relatively bland. Just the facts kind of thing, okay? So in your assignment for me, you need to be careful about what font you choose. I'm not going to dictate what font you choose, but it needs to be easy to read, it needs to be crisp, and you need to use bolding when appropriate to do so. You do not bold everything. What does bolding mean?
Emphasize.
What, it does mean in bold font, but I mean, what does it mean to you all in social media when somebody bolds something? Emphasizes, or we are yelling, right? So there are appropriate times to yell, if you will. The headings of your sections should be called out, should be emphasized, okay? So you'll notice my name is bolded. My prefix is there. My professional positions, that everything that falls through that is bolded. I want an employer to go, or whoever's reviewing my CV, to be able to go to the sections and find what they're looking for. It's called wayfinding in a way, okay? So if somebody's interested in my professional positions, they can find it real easy and then look at the details, okay? You'll notice my education is listed. You all will list your education as well. What education will you list? You will definitely list high school. What else will you list? You will actually talk about the fact that you were enrolled in college. Okay? For those of you who are transfer students, what will you be listing? Yeah, you will have more than one college, won't you? Right? You won't just be the University of Southern Mississippi. Maybe you went to MGCCC. Maybe you went to Pearl. Whatever. Maybe you went to Ole Miss and graduated. Who knows? Right? You will list the credentials. So if you went to a community college or another institution and got a degree there, you will list your degree. Okay? And you'll see on mine I've got PhD, and then I've got BS. I've got my postdoctoral work that I've got there. All of that information is listed out. Okay? So you will definitely list your education stuff on this assignment. Okay? What about professional positions? You all going to list your work experience? If you have any, you'll list it, okay? At this point in your careers, it's okay to list if you worked at retail or whatever the case may be. I did those types of jobs at one point too. Notice they are no longer there. They are no longer relevant to anything that I would possibly do. They are relevant for you at this point. People want to know, do you have experience doing X, Y, or Z? Have you had to get up and go to work, et cetera, okay? So that'll be important for you to list. I list licensures and certifications. I list my professional memberships. Anybody in here join the ACS Student Affiliates? If you did, that is a professional organization. You should put that in, okay? You can put it in as a membership, but you also have a place for service. So if you're involved with that organization doing activities for service, you want to list that service as well, okay? You'll also notice I list awards and honors, okay? You will list any, what are some awards and honors that you may have come across now? President's list, Dean's list, Honors College. What else? Scholarships, absolutely, those are awards. What else? What else might you list? If you're part of an organization and you want an award, you'll definitely want to list that. What about your high school awards? Definitely for you at this point, you'll want to list that, okay? When you look at my awards and honors, you go back, I actually still have one from high school. Oklahoma Boys State participant in 1989. You all weren't even thought about then, right? But I still list that because it was a significant honor, at least at the time, okay? So I go back in terms of all kinds of scholarships and things like that. I keep those on my resume, okay? Your list will grow as you get older and more professional experience. For us, we need to list our media appearances and interviews. I have my publications listed. As you all do your research, you might get to be a co-author on a publication. You'll definitely want to list that kind of information, okay?
Jesus.
Presentations. How many people in here have done professional presentations? Academic presentations. Okay, maybe a couple of you, right? How many of you did presentations in high school? All right, at this point, it's okay to put that kind of stuff on there. Presentations are one of those soft skills that people look for. You want to make sure you have that, okay? Goes on. Okay. You all will not have contracts, fellowships, unless you've received a grant or something, okay? But we put that stuff in there. I put in my research activity. If you're involved in research, you'll want to list that. Many of you are not at that point yet. Teaching experience, you won't put. Okay. Don't worry about that. It's the same stuff over and over again. I haven't edited it. You won't do directed student learning kind of stuff. But this is the difference between a CV and a resume. A lot of stuff, you know, this is a CV, right? A lot of stuff that I've worked on over the years. Things that a lot of people will want to know. Now, it just turns out that we have a software platform at USM that I keep all this stuff in, and it automatically generates my CV, so I can tell it what to include and what not to include very, very easily. But service is a very important thing. What kind of service have you all done at this point? Give me some examples.
Looking at like food drives.
Food drives, okay, yeah.
I tutor,
Pardon?
I tutor.
Tutor, okay. What else?
I like go to schools with the philanthropy committee and like help with homework.
Okay, yeah, that's all service. Does service mean that it has to be unpaid? No, I could get paid. I could get paid and it still be service, right? Service is just something that we do for the community, right? But people get paid to do this kind of stuff. So don't if you got paid to do something, don't think that it's not necessarily service, okay? Most of the service, though, is free. I mean, you do for free, right? Volunteer work. So there is a difference, a little bit of a difference. I think you were probably thinking about volunteer work. Volunteer is unpaid, and that'll be the vast majority. Most of it that I've done over the years, believe me, has been unpaid. But we break it down into different types of service. So there's university service for us, professional service, and then public service. So we kind of list all of those types of things. What's absent here that you might put on yours that I didn't put on mine? What kind of a heading might you have that I didn't bother to put?
Organizations we're involved with on campus.
Okay, I have that as professional memberships, but that could be different. What else?
I know some employers look at social media. Would you want to put that? I guess it just depends if they ask.
If they ask. I will guarantee you every employer or everybody that you apply to anything for is going to look at your social media if it's available. So what does that tell you?
It's important what you put on social.
It's very important what you put on social media. It is fair game for people to judge you, rightly or wrongly, based on what you publicly post.
So do you want us to put our social media accounts on there?
I do not. That is completely up to you, but I highly recommend that you all start, and I know this might sound bad, cleaning up your social media presence. And I'm not an expert at it, but I do know that when you put something out publicly, it is fair game. It is not an invasion of privacy for me to go out and say, I want to look at so-and-so's Facebook page or their Twitter account, or if you make it publicly posted, we can use it. And you're going to be applying for scholarships, they're going to say, let me see your resume. And if you put on there, this is my Instagram or whatever, and somebody goes on there and there's a lot of stuff that is inconsistent with the image that they wish to portray for an award recipient, they will look at that, okay? So it is important. And I'm not saying don't be involved in social media. I'm not saying don't be involved in public discourse, but be careful with what you post. What you post will live forever. I am so thankful I was born at a time when I learned about a lot of technology and social media didn't exist. My skeletons in the closet have remained in the closet, right? But a lot of people's skeletons get out, and that can be a problem. So be careful what you post. I would not include it on your CV or your resume, okay? Make that person work to find it if they want to find it. Don't make it easy for them to find it, okay? But what I will say that you don't see on mine, you don't see a heading of skills. You all will need to have a heading of skills. Why do I not have skills listed and you all have skills listed?
You've done so much, everything seems like a skill.
That's right. I've done enough now that I've got a long CV that people can understand my skill set, okay? Now, that's not saying if I was applying to a job in industry that I wouldn't go back and put skills. I would. But I'm in academia. People know I'm a chemist. People look at my publications. They can get my skill set from that, okay? You all will put skills. What kind of skills will you be listing?
Active listening.
Okay, active listening. I would call that a soft skill. Soft skills are very important to list. What other soft skills might you list?
Like ability to work in teams.
Ability to work in teams. Okay, what else?
Critical thinking.
Pardon?
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. What else? Pardon? Organization. Okay, organizational skills. What else? Public speaking, if you've done that. Okay. Now, what's the danger about listing your skills?
You gotta be able to prove you can do it.
Yeah, you've got to be able to put up, right? You will be asked about your skills. If you list on there, I am proficient in the use of Excel, and you go into an interview and somebody says, can you explain to me how a pivot table works? And you go, a what? You are not proficient in the use of Excel. Okay? So you need to put things on there that you are confident that you can back up. Okay? What else? Any other soft skills that you can think of?
Good communication skills.
Communication skills. Should we be specific in any of these soft skills? What kind of communication skills would you be talking about? All communication skills?
Interpersonal.
Interpersonal skills? I mean, communication, we have writing, we have speaking, right? Be specific. You don't have to write paragraphs. But if you're a really good speaker and not a particularly good writer, are you going to just list general communication skills? Probably not. You're going to list, I'm good at public speaking, right? If you're good at writing, you're going to list writing. If you're good at both, I would list both. You're going to want to list software skills. Again, Excel if you're proficient at it. Now, people will kind of give caveats to their skills, which I think is perfectly fine. Some people say not to do it, but I think it's perfectly fine because I think it's being honest. But I've seen resumes before where they'll say, I have intermediate skills in Word and Excel. Okay, you're not claiming that you know everything, but you know more than just how to put numbers in a cell and you know how to do some things. All right. And I've had people say, for an example, beginning Python skills. All right, so you know what Python is, you know how maybe to program a little bit with Python, you know how to do some simple, that's good, right? It gives the employer, whoever's doing it, an understanding of your depth. So they're not going to go if you put I have beginner Excel skills, they're not going to come in, they're not going to ask you, can you tell me about a pivot table? right? They're gonna come in, they're gonna ask you, well, how would you, solve this using some basic Excel skills? How would you add these things together or multiply them or plot this out, whatever the case may be, right? But they're not gonna get into the deep things about power pivot or whatever, some of the more in-depth things that you might learn in Excel, okay? So, what is it that I wanna see on your resume? I wanna see at the very top, get up to the top. I want to see your personal and contact information. Okay? You will see that there. What is yours going to look like? You're going to have your name, right? How should you represent your name? How did I represent my name? Oh, I did use a bigger font, that's true, and I want people to know it's my resume, right? I'm kind of yelling my name out here, and that's fine. I did, I put my prefix. That won't be there for you at the moment, right? And that's okay. You'll notice that well, I don't know, you probably don't know this. Everybody who knows me calls me Doug. But what did I put there? I put my full name, I put Douglas. Is that the right way to do it? Not necessarily. I know people that are named Robert that put Bob, whatever. That's fine, however you want to be. But in a professional setting, when I'm dealing with people that I don't know yet, I want them to call me Douglas. Okay? I put my middle initial, I put my last name. Okay? I put where I'm located. Okay? I put my rank. You all don't have a rank yet, right? You won't just put student. You don't have to do that, right? You'll see that I've got my phone number, and you'll see that I have my email address. Okay? Email addresses are important, folks. I highly recommend you use your usm.edu email address right now. Don't use your Gmail address or anything like that. Why is that?
Maybe unprofessional.
It could be unprofessionally labeled, right? I've seen people's email addresses that I go, I won't say what they are, but at USM it's first name dot last name at, it's very professional, very, very straightforward. Yes?
Do you want us to add our major in that part or just in?
You will put that in your education. That will be listed in your education, okay?
So should we only put name, number, email?
I would do that, yes. Some people will put their address. I highly recommend you do not. Okay? It's usually nobody's business on a resume. A resume can be passed around. There is no secrecy to your resume. An application, however, you can expect some privacy. I'm applying to a job, they ask for my address, I can put that there. Boom, it's going to stay in that organization. A CV or a resume, once they get it, free game. Yeah, they usually pass these things around, especially within an organization. So I want you to list that. I want you to list your education. Okay. I want you to list your organizations, professional memberships, however you want it, any awards and honors that you have at this point. Okay. You'll also notice that there's something absent here that probably the Career Services asked you about, right? And that's a statement of purpose. Resumes quite frequently have a statement of purpose, okay? And that changes for everything that you apply to. You can include that on this, and that's just fine, okay? But I'm not going to hold you to that. But I don't have that on mine because I'm not applying to anything, okay? Any questions about what should or should not be there?
Will we put a GPA?
Pardon?
We need to put our GPA.
You can. And what I'll say about that is that people look at GPAs differently. If you're going to list your GPA, I would include your cumulative GPA and then in parentheses put your major GPA. Okay? And it matters to some people. So if I was looking at a resume, let's say I had a job opening upstairs in my lab and I was asking several of the students to give me the resume, I'm going to be more interested in how you did in your chemistry classes than how you did in your Art 130 class. All right? Art 130 is a great class. I'm not dissing it. But you may have said, you know what, I'm going to live with a C in Art 130 because I got to spend some time in these chemistry classes to get the A that I want. You made a choice. That C will bring your overall GPA down, but I look at your chemistry GPA and I go, oh, 4.0. Okay. They're coming into my lab to do chemistry, not to make art. So, you know, that matters. So that's my recommendation. That is not a hard and fast rule. Okay? Anything else about that? Any questions? So that's available and due now. I will tell you a couple of things that I will allow you to do. I will allow you to take your resume over to Career Services and have them critique it before you turn it in. And you can count that as activity assignment number 2 if you want. So you can kind of catch 2 birds with 1 stone here. Yeah.
If we used Career Services for our first activity, though, it would.
Did you have them review your resume?
No.
I'll count it. If they reviewed the resume and they sign off that they reviewed it. Yeah. They'd have to sign off on the form, and that would be perfectly fine. The other thing, which some faculty probably are discouraging you from using, don't be afraid to use ChatGPT. Don't be afraid to put it in and say, critique my resume. Don't just because it says I would do X necessarily think that you have to do X, but it's a way to, you can use that chat bot to help you refine your resume. Perfectly fine, happy for you to do that. So don't be afraid to run it through. Any other questions?
Do people care about high school GPA?
At this point, if you were to apply to some scholarships, they might ask that information. I think most people at this point, though, are going to be more interested in any awards or honors you received while you were in high school. So, National Merit Scholar, member of the Honor Society, whatever those cases might be, I think they would be much more interested in those types of things. All right. Yes?
Do you know if it goes, like our resume goes over a page long? Because I had high school people who like one page.
It does not have to be 1 page. I would say for a resume, no more than 2 pages. Pay attention to your spacing and your margins. It needs to be clean. Things that are all over the place are distracting. And if you distract somebody who's reviewing your resume and they've got a stack of 100 of them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to move on. They're going to move on. Remember, the resume is your first opportunity to make an impression quite frequently. So keep that in mind. We're going to do a little exercise here. So I've got some boxes. Do not open the box. You all will get together. You get with this group here. So you make this a group. There's a lot. Make this a group, I guess. This a group. I want you to make observations about the box. You can't open the box. So go ahead and get together in groups. It's okay to get up and move around. We got a little bit of time. Make observations.
Yeah, there's like 2. I think one might be a bunch of one.
I need more boxes.
Maybe a coin or something. Right.
It's one or more small.
Yeah, it just really sounds like one.
Like 2 or 3.
I think there's the ball and the coin. I think there's 2 big balls.
Again, do not open the box.
Yeah, me too. Do you think there's 2 things or just 1?
I mean, if we want to
Yeah.
get silly.
Maybe it's marble ball is.
You can dig in my backpack. In the side pockets, there's probably some sort of pencil in there.
Weird digging up people's bags.
It's kind of fun though.
It's a lot of time with. Or how they organize their bags.
If we want to make some like very obvious alternate shoes, we can talk about
Everybody got a card?
My best friend.
What are you all doing right now?
Disgusting.
We are making observations. What have you all observed so far?
That the box should be clean.
That's the box, okay? What else have you observed?
there's one or two things you can
There's stuff in it,
covered in duct tape,
it's covered in duct tape. Why'd I cover it in duct tape?
so you can't see what's
You can't see what's inside.
You should have.
What else have you observed?
How it sounds.
How it sounds,
How it feels.
how it feels. Okay. Have any of you thought yet about doing an experiment without opening the box?
just like trying to listen to drop
Just listen to
that
it?
part, drop it
And feeling
make
it.
breaks.
Magnet against it? Yeah, we could do that. We could maybe, if we had a magnet, right? We could do that.
Listening to what falls first.
Listening to what falls first.
When he does his little puzzle box.
How it feels. 'Cause you can
How
tell
many
the
of you
material.
think you have a good idea of how many items are in the box? How many of you feel like you have a good idea of what's in the box? All right. Good. Anybody ever played this game before? No? Some of you have. What method are we using right now? We're using the scientific method, aren't we? What other experiment could you all do right now without opening the box? Compare boxes, that's exactly right. Do we know whether or not the boxes all have the same thing? They all look like the same box, don't they? But we don't know what's inside. How is that relevant to chemistry?
A lot of chemistry is figuring out what's inside.
What is the box representing in chemistry? An unknown substance, okay, could be that, or what else could it be? Could be an atom, couldn't it? Can I take an atom and just look at it and figure out what's inside it? No, what do I have to do? I have to do tests, I have to interrogate it, I have to see how it interacts with things. You all are doing those experiments right now with these boxes. You all are shaking them, you are interacting with the box, right? On your cards, your name and your ID number, of course, for attendance. But on the back, I want you to write what you think is in your box and why. What do you think? Take a few minutes, we're not a hurry. Shake the box, tilt the box. Don't open the box. Now, you all don't have to necessarily be at the point that I think it's this particular item, but you might be able to describe what you think that item might look like or what it's made of. Right? This is how chemistry got its start. We didn't know that we had atoms. We knew we had materials. We knew we had things. Right?
Okay, I think I'm. Thank you.
I do have a black match.
You're opening your box.
Oh, no.
Can you take a look at the box? couple more minutes for writing, and then we'll see what the next step is. All right, first group up here up front. What do you all think is in the box? What's your hypothesis?
I think there are two balls.
You think there are two spheres of some
Yeah.
sort?
I think one is like a bigger and like rubber material, and one's like a small, more hard ball. Maybe.
Do you all kind of concur? You all think kind of the same? Okay. Keep the box clear. What about you all? What do you all think is in the box?
It's like 2 or 3, probably like small round objects, we'd say. That's what it sounds like.
Maybe like beans.
Yeah.
Like beans?
It doesn't sound like,
Cutters?
if it was rocks, it would be like
A
a
little
sharp,
harder.
a harder sound, but it sounds kind of like
Sounds
softer
like-
maybe.
Okay. How about you all? What do you all think is in the box? You think they're marbles? Okay. Does everybody kind of concur with that? Is there any differing opinion?
I was thinking like aquarium.
Aquarium rocks. That's very specific.
I don't know, it just sounds like aquarium rock.
Sounds like aquarium rock. How do you know what aquarium rock is?
I had a lot of fish.
Ah, all right, so you have experience, so this is into your experience, okay?
Like when you
It's like we're actually just
like,
imagining it.
it doesn't roll.
Collecting solutions.
Should be like an irregular shape.
Okay, so your experience suggests that based on this, that it's probably an irregular shape, something that kind of counters gravity. All right, how about you all? A bolt and washer? That's very specific. What makes you think it's a bolt and a washer? You have a lot of experience with bolts and washers?
When it like, whenever you like shake it or something, it sounds like, it's like metallic and clinking noise, and it sounds like metal, and then like if you like kind of like try to even it out, one side's bigger than the other side, or like you can tell the other one's on the other side, so it's kind of weird.
So you all in agreement with that? You all think it's a bolt and a washer? How about you all? Nails? You think they're nails? You think it's a what? A bell?
They have sharp edges.
There's a G. All right. All right, so you all have some general ideas. So let's start up here. What did you all say you think it is?
Well, I think it's 2 balls.
Okay, open it up.
Those are aquarium rocks.
Those are aquarium rocks. Yeah, and there are 3 of them, right? Okay, go ahead and put them back in and close it back up, please. This group, what did you all say you thought it was?
Like,
Beans or something.
Beans?
Yeah.
All right. Let's open up some.
oh, it's dice.
Oh, little dice.
Wait, hold on, let me see, what kind of dice?
In fact, those are the little dice that come
What
on
do we roll?
little
That was a
things when
5
you're at the
and
bar.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
All right, go ahead and put them back in. All right, this group,
I feel like
you thought it was aquarium rock.
soft.
Okay.
They do have rounded edges.
Popcorn kernels. But what was similar to what you were describing? You were describing it as
We did say
aquarium
beans.
rocks based on your experience. But a lot of what you described is true. Those aren't perfectly round or irregular in shape. They don't roll quite like a ball, right?
I think it's because of the tape.
How about you all? Open it up.
It feels like a rubber ball.
It is a bolt and a washer. Actually, it's a bolt, a washer, and a nut.
I said that first, but.
Yeah. All right. Did you all see? No? Very impressive. Very good. Very good.
Roll for initiative.
And you all thought it was nails? What is it?
It's nails.
And it is nails? Well, screws. Pretty close though, we'll call them fasteners. That's the same thing.
That's not
All right, very good, very good. You all just did science. Okay?
Science over here.
Pardon?
Bad science over here.
It was not bad science. None of you did bad science. You all had good observations. You all came up with hypotheses that were based on those observations. You just didn't have the tools to really do the experiments that you needed to do. You were relying on how it feels when you rock it, how it sounds, right? And with the exception of the bolt and you all really got that one, right? But you got close. You were very close, right? It was irregularly shaped. It was something that was, yours was close to spherical. It's like half a sphere, right? So you were making some observations. And you all, it was screws versus nails. You all recognized it was probably some type of metal fastener. That's good, right? So, you just did what scientists are always doing. We're making observations. We're asking questions. We're interrogating the system. We're trying to come up with answers to our questions. If you all had it to do over again, and I told you, gave you time and said you could take the box home, you can't open it, you can test it, what might you have done at home that you couldn't do here in class? Weigh it. All right? Okay, you could have weighed it, kind of gotten the mass. You would have gotten the mass of the box plus the contents, right?
Yeah.
What else could you have done?
Compared other sounds to the sounds of the box.
Yeah, you could have compared to other sounds. You could have taken a bolt, a nut, and a washer and said, does that sound like something? Or is that what popcorn sounds like when it's in a box? Yeah, you could have done that. What else could you have done?
He said expose it to magnets.
Expose it to a magnet, right? A magnet wouldn't have helped you at all, right? You would have said, no, but it would have helped you a little bit, right? You would have said, well, it's not attracted to a magnet,
You can't see.
right? Would have helped you all,
For density.
right? Probably would have helped you all with the bolt, right? Wouldn't help the popcorn. Expose it to heat, you probably would have melted my box. But yeah, you could have done that. You could have interrogated with that. Okay? Regardless of where you all end up at the end of your academic career, whether you stay with chemistry or go into the humanities or whatever the case may be, I want you all to be critical thinkers. What you just did was a critical thinking exercise. Do not take information at face value, even from experts. Ask questions. Interrogate the results. Okay, do experiments. It's important. It's important that we do that kind of stuff. Okay? Whether we become professional scientists or not. You all, some of you will end up in an operating room as a surgeon. Some of you will end up as a general practitioner. Some of you will end up as professional scientists. Each one of those professions and other professions require you to do essentially what we did today to come up with the truth. Okay? So with that, we've got 2 minutes left. We are done. Turn in your cards up here, and please bring me back my boxes.